And yeah, I first found out about mutual aid from RBN, and from there I kind of got obsessed. Kind of there's
Good,
different things
good.
that I come across, and I can just get obsessed and just focus so much on it. I read a book called Mutual Aid by I think his name is David Spade. Now I might have I hope I got his name right. And it was just an excellent book. Please look it up. Get the Audible book if you consume books that way. And it was just like Nick said, it's just a different way of serving the people. You might think that charity is a virtuous way of giving back, but there's other forms, and there are other ways that are more direct and builds community and builds society and builds infrastructure. And that's what we're going to be talking about today.
Zaina, do you have anything you want to add?
Mutual aid is something that we didn't call it that when I was younger, but I'm from Appalachia. We used to, when it was time to do cannon, people would gather things from all their different gardens and come, and then they would join together, and we would have a big gathering with people from the community and family and can, so that we could live through the winter, because everybody was poor. People would leave bushels of, cucumbers in front of their front yard, and somebody else would bring the corn. These were things that were built into the Appalachian community because of being from poverty, and similar to my Iranian family, and built into theirs. But it's something that I feel like we've lost. And that community support, building community through mutual aid, through helping each other out, through what we can do, because we've had plenty of charities come in Appalachia. They take pictures of us, like we're toothless, dirty people standing on our front porches barefoot, right? We can't do nothing for ourselves. They get hundreds of millions of dollars, and they don't do anything for us. And we've had to learn how to take care of each other. But and to me, that's sort of the spirit of mutual aid, the soul behind it, where we lift each other up instead of reaching toward the millionaires and the billionaires and begging them for breadcrumbs. We find ways to lift each other up.
Yeah, that's the important distinction as well, because when you have charities, there is a hierarchical structure involved, and there's a one-way relationship where you have the obedient people that you are helping out for publicity. But in mutual aid, it's a reciprocal approach where we all helping each other out, all for the goal of bettering society and achieving our political aims. So there's in charity, the goal of charity is for PR and for the tax write-off. So Bill Gates has a charity, so he can say he has a charity. Democratic politician number one has a charity, so he can say he has a charity. There's no movement building going on there. That is why it's so important. That's why I want to hammer in this particular panel, so you guys can understand the primary difference, because there's so many people on the left ruling class who engage in charity instead of the mutual aid with the working class needed to build a revolution that we need, right? And mutual aid, and I want to point this out as well, mutual aid, unlike charity, firmly believes that everyone has something to contribute, right? When charity in their organizations, they have hierarchies. Some people got certain benefits, and they're this very rigid top-down structure that is meant to benefit the people on the top. Meanwhile, in mutual aid, if you're someone who can cook a pie for people who are doing activism, who can help people, who can teach people to grow food, for example, that is your contribution towards the overall greater movement. There's a very clear difference. But I know we're short on time. I want to get to Case, because I know you got a presentation I want to get to, because I think you have a very interesting idea.
Here we go.
I want to dive into. We talked about it on the calling before, and these are the new kind of ideas we need, and we can brainstorm through this together. And I explained my theory of change on this show quite a few times, so I want to hear from you, Case. Let's go through this presentation.
Yeah. So, and by the way, it's Dean Spade is his name. I said David, I meant Dean. So mutual aid, check out that book. So
I was gonna say, Case, say, do you mean the comedian on SNL? David
Someone said that in the chat too.
Yeah, I was like, no, that's not the guy. I was gonna say that. Go ahead.
Matter of fact, I reached out to him, and hopefully I'm gonna have him on my channel in the future. He says he's super busy, and he's a very cool guy, and hopefully I'll be able to interview him at some point. So the last idea I had was called the People's Gauntlet, which came to fruition. There's a website, you could go to it right now, peoplesgauntlet.com. But what I did was I went on a fact-finding mission. It took maybe 8 months of me interviewing former candidates, current people who are activists, and I wanted to get the community's input. And so I'm taking that same approach here, where the idea hasn't come to fruition yet. This is more of a framework, and this is where we all come together. Everyone has a say in how this organization is going to be formed and how we move forward as a community. So Mutual Aid, a political party, I put "we got us" is like a shorter take on "we all we got," but it's like, hey, we got us, like Nick was saying before. So this is the framework. The order of priority is first mutual aid, then political education, number 2, and then number 3 is systemic change. So I wanted to make sure that this is at the foundation of it, because 5 years from now, 10 years from now, that's something that could get lost. Once this becomes a vehicle for change, people could maybe start pushing mutual aid to the wayside and say, wow, here's this great vehicle that I could get elected. No. That's not what this is about. This is about affecting real people, real lives, and making real change.
I love the emphasis on political education as well, because when you look at our 10 Demands program, and we're going to have a panel on that soon, and Fred Hampton talked about this as well, with how the importance of education.
That's coming.
We can't have a movement, and this has been the problem for a long time, where people just wing it. We just wing it. We just have vibes. No, revolutions and successful left-wing movements had a very strict, organized plan. We can't just be the wing it movement anymore. We got to be educated. We got to be organized. But go ahead, Case. I just want to add that.
No, 100%. Fred Hampton. I have 3 quotes from Fred Hampton throughout this presentation. The first one we're going to talk about is mutual aid. First, you have free breakfast. Then you have free medical care. Then you have free bus rides. And soon you will have freedom. Fred Hampton. All right. So here's the heart of the idea. It's going to be a website. And basically the idea is like a help desk ticket site, and anybody's going to be able to come here, and I'm going to talk about the pros and cons in a minute. Anybody's going to be able to come to the site, join for free, and put up a help desk ticket, meaning if they need help cutting their lawn, if they need help painting the room, if they need help with anything, they'll go on here, post a ticket, and then we're going to build a community where we'll have people in the area that will say, okay, I'm in this area, I can help out with this ticket. So now the pros and cons. The pros is it holds everyone accountable, right? Recently, during the pandemic, I needed help. Me personally, I have a need. In my backyard, underneath my deck, I have a whole bunch of groundhogs. They're starting to multiply. They're starting to dig up my lawn. And I'm like, how do I get rid of these groundhogs? But I don't have money to buy an exterminator or whatever. So I just said, let me look up mutual aid in New Jersey, where I live. And there was a couple mutual aid. To my surprise, organizations came up. But I called them. Nobody answered. I reached out. I emailed. Nobody responded. So to me, they're like ghost organizations where if you were not, it's almost like health insurance. You might think you have, but then when you go to use it, it's like you find out how bad it is.
Yeah.
Right. So here is a website where you're going to see it's actively working. You're going to be able to see past tickets, going to be able to see future tickets. You're going to see, and also I want the teams. There's going to be a team section where everybody can sign up, whoever's going to help. And by the way, you can help and then you can receive help also. That's the whole point of this mutual aid, is back and forth. But you're going to sign up as a team, to join a team. So I'm hoping that I saw later on there's going to be RBN chapters. I would love for RBN chapters to have teams on the site when it goes live at some point in the future. I love churches to have teams. I love political organizations to have teams. Socialist Alternative, etc., should have a team because they want to show, hey, we're helping the people, right? So let me pause for a moment. Anyone has any questions?
Let me jump in here. This is actually the reason why, Nick, I wanted to join, because we just added another section where we're doing the RBN chapters. That wasn't originally on the schedule. The schedule got switched around, so we had to fill that slot. And I was like, I want to come and listen to 2 things during this summit. in reference to our chapters. That's on Sunday when we have the Socialist Alternative, because I think I want to also model up after a lot of things they do, and we're going to talk to Kashama about that and helping us organize that. But also this idea is something I think maybe it could be a part of some of our our chapters for RBN. So I just wanted to interject that. Go ahead.
Yeah, I would love for other people to organizations to get involved, and here's a benefit of that. It's going to create a healthy competition, I think, amongst teams, right? You're going to have people say, hey, our team, we had more tickets than you guys this month. And other people are like, okay, come on, guys, let's have a meeting. We got to see how we can get out the word, how we can build. It's going to build a healthy competition. And also, we talked about a horizontal structure, right? So I don't want at all Mutual Aid Political Party to be this top-down organization like you have with other organizations. I'm not even going to name them, where you have one person at the top. And then if that person gets into a scandal, the whole organization is in flux, right? Well, Mutual Aid Political Party, you have the main heart of it is this website. And then the teams, you can join a team. You might join a team, local team, let's call it New Jersey Mutual Aid, right? You join the team, you get to learn, meet the people. You say, you know what? I don't like this team. I got to bounce. I don't like the way this person's handled it. Matter of fact, I might even start my own team. And then you can have your own vision for starting a team, whether it's more friendly or whatever. And so now we have different ways of creating teams. And if you don't like one team, you could join another one, and you have the healthy competition. And if there's scandal in one team, that could just fall to the wayside and you could just continue on. So I think that's one of the pros and cons of having a team. Now I'm going to talk about some cons. The first con is this is a website. Unfortunately, we really want to meet the needs of people on the streets. There'll be a class of people like homeless people that just don't have a phone. They don't have access to a computer. So in those cases, what we'll be looking for is people who are willing to help would have to be active in going out, helping those people, and maybe they'll fill out a ticket themselves and say, hey, I helped out this person. Then the other question is, how do you get credit? Maybe you take a picture with the person, but that's something that as a community, I would like to get feedback on in this area, how we should handle this area. And then the second con is there might be malicious actors, right? So if you think about Uber, you had people that would pretend they're in an Uber car and they'll pick up people and kidnap them. And then the other way around, you have rude people that sit in the back who are drunk and they're rude to the drivers, or they hit the drivers and all this different stuff. Well, if somebody puts in a ticket to say, hey, can you help me paint my room? We don't want people to be put in a dangerous situation. So that's another area where I'm open to having the conversation of how do we implement those kind of situations? Like, do we make sure there has to be two people that go to one house so that they feel more secure, or even having people come to your house? How can we make that?
Yeah, save some safety.
Move on to the next slide.
Some safety concerns may shape how the policy
basically
is
you could
ran.
Just email me at CaseStudyQB. Any thoughts, and also if you're interested in taking part. All right.
Hey, Case, you glitched out there for a second.
Oh, where was the last thing I said? I thought it was on your side. I'm sorry.
I heard everything, but you glitched out right when I made a comment. That maybe that's what you didn't hear me make a comment yet.
No, I did not hear you. Go ahead.
No, you can continue. It was just it was a small comment. It wasn't a question or anything.
Cool. So let's move on. So out here I was talking about, so you're going to have mutual aid tickets. That's for helping individual people, like going to someone's house to help their lawn. But then remember, we got like tour. Rome has Tour for the Poor. So in those cases, you have mutual aid events. So these are events where you have a big, I don't want to call it a party, but a big gathering. You give out the whole bunch of book bags and give out pencils and supplies. That's more of an event type of situation more than an individual ticket. We talked about mutual aid teams, establish churches, political organizations, etc. Now here is the accountability also. So for the people who are doing the mutual aid, for every hour that you spend doing the work, you get and we'll decide how we want to call it, one labor dollar, one mutual aid dollar, 1 point. And that's how you hold people accountable. right? Because later on down the line, when we do go to want to elect people to the student board, the school board, and to mayorships, and they say, hey, I want the endorsement of the mutual aid political party, well, we can say, well, how many points do you have? Did you do anything for anybody? That's basically going to be the first question. Go ahead.
One thing I would switch about it in order to get rid of bad actors, or just an idea, would be the people have to nominate somebody. A person can say, I want to run. Because then the person can be like, you know what I mean? Like you have this now where people go and do internships. Oh, I'm doing this internship in the community. No, motherfucker, you preparing yourself to run as a politician.
My
you know what I'm saying? So we need to have community, like the people in the community. Oh, we need somebody to go run for the school board. Oh, this person is great. They're always helping here. They're always doing this. Are you interested? That type of thing. But go ahead, Nick, or Case, or
Zaina. I want to hear from Zaina. Zaina, you about to chime in?
Oh, I was just going to say, and I know we were on a call the other day where we literally, I think maybe it was me, Sabrina, and Case. I think you were on that call when we were talking about how at Brand New Congress, we had candidates that that were nominated by their communities. People like Anthony Clark, Paula Jean Swearingen, Rebecca Parsons. There were others that were actually nominated. Some of them we recruited. The people that we recruited and we had to talk into running, who had those community ties and had all those nominations, right? I think Anthony Clark had something like 25 nominations because he does a mutual aid organization in Chicago called Community. That's awesome. Like they've been building fridges. He's been doing work like Rome's been doing now for 4 or 5, 6 years since I've known the guy. And that's why the community nominated him. Was so different than the candidates that they're finding now that wanted to run. I saw such a big difference from the people that wanted to run than somebody like a Paula Jean or a Eva Pitsova or a Anthony Clark that we had to talk into running. Because those people were nominated because they had those ties to the community. So I think that that's a really good point there, Jay. And then the second thing I would say is having guidelines is good. And then having, like you were talking about, how to kind of keep it from being sketch. One thing you could do is in this, as you build this out, you can have another maybe page with different skills that people have that they can offer. That can either be on the front end or the back end. But, if you know people that trim trees and they'll come out and they'll help people, with those hours, that sort of thing, then you can also turn to potentially help seed co-ops too in the future. So
no, 100%. When you sign up, especially as someone that wants to help, I think we're going to have a section where you can put your occupation, because most people has a profession. Mine's is IT, computers. So if I would put myself down in that realm, and if I see a ticket where somebody says, hey, I got a virus, or hey, I need help with refreshing my computer, et cetera, I could say, hey, okay, that's my arena. I could take that ticket. If we have somebody in the chat right now who's a dentist, that's like very valuable. And you can say, hey,
I'm the martial art trainer.
There you go.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna build a little army, man. I'm gonna use this website. Who want to learn Muay Thai?
There you go. I might want to join you. I'm not in Kansas.
That's the way I'm gonna contribute.
Exactly.
I'm gonna teach y'all how to defend yourself. But go ahead.
But I understand this cost to it. There's certain costs, but if somebody says, hey, I could donate, almost pro bono or something, like I could do 10 clean-ins a month. That's great. Anything that you can do can help, because if you have one dentist, if we could get an army of dentists in New Jersey, I'll use my state as an example. You have 10 in different parts of New Jersey, that can help significantly, and we could build up that way through occupations. Yeah.
And there, I mean, this is the genesis of the idea. So there's going to be a bunch of questions that people are going to have. And this is how we build the idea, by answering the questions and deciding what we're going to do. And one of the things is, clearly, just like Uber, we're going to have to screen people. Like, we can't, people, I'm IT, really? We about to send you to somebody's house to fuck that shit up? Oh, no, we're not doing that. Like, there has to be some, like, something that show that you could do this. So when it does grow, of course, we're going to have those sort of thresholds to meet, to say, hey, somebody who knows this case, you go out here and make sure this person knows what they're talking about and what they're doing. You get what I'm
And
saying?
we're gonna definitely have a rating
There have to
system.
be like waivers and stuff
Yeah.
like that for a person receiving the
Yeah.
service. So all of those questions we get. Go ahead.
And
I'm
ratings,
seeing
I
the
would
questions
say.
in the chat. Yeah.
Also a rating system. You know, Uber has that, like 5-star, 4-star, such and such,
Right.
things like that. So all of that, we're definitely going to need help on building that part out, because I want it to be scalable, meaning like when this goes to all 50 states, you know, just one person approving everybody is going to be tough. So we definitely have to have a systemic way of how we make sure that there's safeguards in place, so that you're not sending somebody who's not a IT profession to somebody's house to do something nefarious.
And what safeguard what we have in place to ensure that this doesn't fall into the hands of the red or the blue team, in particular the blue
Yeah.
team, because when we're saying we're trying to elect people, so maybe the electing people may come further down the line. Maybe the mutual aid part and education will start for a few years before that, because you have to understand they have the corrupt system. So they
Yeah.
require you to run red or blue in these districts in order to win sometimes. But so you get what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah. So that's
we
the question.
can't-
I think
like we can't do red or blue.
so. We're
at
going to get to
all.
that. We're going to
Yeah,
get
at all.
we're going to
Yeah.
get to that's under my systemic change category. So
Gotcha.
matter of fact, let's move on.
Yeah,
So,
let's move on.
let me go on to all right, political education. Fred Hampton. Without education, people will accept anything. Without education, people don't know why they're doing what they're doing. So I think this is a significant part of educating the community, educating the society. Going to the next one. Boom. Okay, political education. So I would like to have workshops where one workshop, these are just ideas. We might have way more workshops than this, but this is just some initial ideas that I'm thinking that the workshop would be created and put up on YouTube. Maybe we'll create a mutual aid political party channel, and this is where we would allow the workshops to live. Here's a couple of ideas. How to identify propaganda. Isn't that so important for regular people who are not familiar to know, like, to identify? My thing is, I would love to tell people, as soon as you see a political commercial on TV, you have to automatically ask, how is it funded?
Yeah,
I want to educate
people.
Can I
add this too? I want to add this, and I'll pass right to you, Case. It's important, and the reason why I talk about it all the time, if we're gonna build these organizations up, especially the one like this, we got to drill how the CIA infiltration tactics. Like, we got to be able to identify that immediately. Yeah. But go ahead, Case. I just want to add it, because that whole part, I think that's 1A, how to identify problem. You can literally put that under that category. The CIA infiltration tactics, the Democratic Party infiltration tactics. I add another part to it.
Yeah,
we got all the tactics that they use to infiltrate us.
Bro, that's a whole workshop by itself.
Yeah, but go ahead. I just want to add that. Go ahead, Case. I'll let you.
It's not even always it's not even always someone who's from the CIA or from the DNC, but if they're doing the stuff that's on that list, they're gonna mess you up. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes it's just people being stupid. And
100%.
Those things.
That's one thing I love about calling is you come across different types of people in different bubbles. And there were times I'm listening to people, I'm like, yo, is this guy a CIA plant? Like, they're not being productive whatsoever. They're just elongating a simple. I remember I was with you, Nick, one day, and somebody just kept bringing. I remember what the topic was, but they kept bringing up something totally different. I'm like, what is going on here?
Yeah, so, and that's such a great point, because what Zaina made, like, I think it's unproductive, and I said it on our show before, to just call people CIA without proof. But what we need to do is, like, hey, yo, remember CIA tactic 4? You're doing it. Why are you doing that tactic, sir? Mm-hmm. We got to be militant and calling that out. Like,
I'm 100% with you.
But go ahead. But that's a great point, Zaina. Go ahead, Case.
Okay, so the evolution of a captured politician. I was on Savvy Sab's calling. I think it was like 2 days ago, and we were talking about this, and somebody actually said they were going to contact me so we could work on this. But it's basically, how does a politician get captured? And at that time, in that calling, we were talking about AOC specifically, how she went from before she got elected, she was one way, and then all the way up to where you see her now. She seems to be a totally different person, or trending in a different direction. And I also brought up There was a person that was a Tea Party, I think David Black. He overcame Eric Cantor, and he was somebody that was supposed to be like a populist Tea Party kind of candidate to buck the Republican system. And over time, he got captured by the Republicans. So it happens in different areas, but I want to educate the people about that and then how to hold politicians accountable. Democrats, identity politics, and Republicans, culture wars. That's what they love, those unproductive conversations. Instead of focusing on Medicare for all, they focus on, oh, do we have a gay candidate? Do we have a black candidate or a woman candidate? While the Republicans focus on, oh, the gay agenda or CRT. Like, so these are things that needs to be discussed, needs to be talked about in the way of how they're distracting. These are just distractions from the actual things that the people need. Medicare for all, universal basic income, universal child care. That's the things that is really needed. What is class war? We need to educate the people on the class war. A lot of the people, they idolize billionaires and millionaires thinking that they're going to become one day. That's the only reason why they're like against taxing them more. And we have to let them learn to understand that not everybody's going to be in that position, unfortunately. So we need to tax these people when they're needed. All right. Before I continue, any questions?
We can keep it going.
Okay. Political discussion. So not only workshops. Now, once we start building a community, I would love for us to get out. COVID is dwindling down where people are going out more. I would love to be able to rent out a library. Usually libraries have conference rooms where you can rent out. Sometimes you can talk if you have a relationship or you build a relationship with the school, and you can build out an auditorium and have a monthly discussion where people can come and we have debates. So we want to be a class. We want to be a class building organization where you would have people who are typically Republicans or they lean right, people who are left come together and say, hey, let's debate socialism. Let's debate capitalism. Let's have that discussion.
Yes, we got to engage.
Engage.
One of the worst things that the boutique led, the DSA class, have convinced people of is that we shouldn't engage. They're like, it's a waste of time. Like, no, we need to get our message out and we need to do it aggressively. That's why I do the work that I do the way I do it. Why I engage in debates if I have to. I engage in people with different ideas. Like, we can't just be in a corner and hide in that corner. I'm gonna avoid saying names of organizations, but we know who we're talking about. There's organizations that stay in their little echo chamber and they don't go out and engage workers. So I really love this idea, especially 100%. If we do it publicly. Like, we can make our once we really start building this organization, we can show up to these big events and call, like, it'd be great. But go ahead, Case.
I would love for little silos of this happening. That's the vision. Is like in every town, they have their own mutual aid team, and you can have rivaling teams come together and be like, oh, we want to debate you on that. As long as it's all peaceful, of course, but we have a healthy competition. Them exit, them enter. I remember CJ had a classic. In my mind, it was a classic discussion with Hector Oseguera, who's from my state, and you guys had that discussion. That's one thing I love about RBN. You guys have anybody on to have these type of discussions. Can compassionate capitalism exist? I just read 50 Cent had a book called Hustle Harder, Hustle Smarter, and it was an excellent book where he talked about compassionate capitalism. I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, that's a oxymoron. You can't have compassionate capitalism. It doesn't exist, in my opinion. But anyway, that could be a debate right there. Independent news, showing RBN, Savvy Sabs on showing various independent news, and then like just show a clip and then have a discussion on that clip. Because there might be people that certain things go over their head, and you can have that discussion in the room about it. So political education is a very vital part of this organization. All right, the last part, systemic change. Fred Hampton, again, everything would be all right if everything was put back in the hands of the people. And we're going to have to put it back in the hands of the people. So far, these are just a couple systemic change that I could think of. I'm sure if Roger Meadows was on here, he have a lot more on this. But ballot initiatives, which I know he champions, but then also there's the local, there's the state, and I would admit I don't have that much. I know my local mayor, or I don't know him personally, but I voted for him. I know about him. But there's certain parts of the state legislature. I don't know who my representative there is and we have to get more educated on that. Federal election, of course, that's the most popular, the presidential level, the House of Representatives, the Senate. And this is the part where we nominate, like CJ said, we will nominate somebody to run for whatever it is. And I would like to marry that with seeing how much they have supported mutual aid. So unless you are in the community and somebody just happens not to be on the site, but they're in the community, then of course you make that exception. You know they're doing the work for sure. But I want people be able to say, hey, I've closed this many tickets, I have this many points, you know, I've been working hard, or let's nominate that person. Like, oh, that person has that many points and they're a good speaker, they articulate very well, they're very smart. Let's nominate that person or and go in that direction. But we're not looking for narcissistic people. That's the whole point. Go ahead, CJ.
No, what I was going to say, when I brought that up, to be clear, I was saying nominate somebody, the community does, that's in the organization. I don't mean we're doing the work, our organization is doing the work, and somebody else outside of, no, I mean somebody within the community of the mutual
Okay, gotcha.
Like, I want to. We're nominating that person. Yes, that's what I meant. Yeah, got you.
And
so it'll involve the points. Yes, it'll involve the points. Yes.
And there's going to be times where you have different teams in the same area, right? And they're going to nominate. Maybe they'll nominate somebody on their team. Maybe you have 8 nominations for that one position, right? Well, in that case, that's where the People's Gauntlet idea comes in. And you say, okay, you got to answer all these questions. We want each of y'all to go through the gauntlet, answer the questions, and then we'll all in this area use either star voting or ranked choice voting to then decide who we're going to give the nomination to. And then people can't be salty. That's part of this. When we come together and we choose somebody, we have to galvanize around that person. And these are all details that's going to be churned out later. Like I said, we're talking about the framework, but definitely I appreciate the feedback, and I love it.
Case, there's one thing that go ahead, Nick, and then
Van, I want to hear from you. Go ahead.
Okay, are you sure? I didn't want to interrupt. Okay.
They hear from me now.
What?
Go ahead.
Okay, 9.3 billion was they're estimating in Open Secrets 9.3 billion on elections in 2022. So one thing you got to think about is a lot of these candidates, corporate money only takes up a very small fraction. A lot of what's given are small dollar donations. People don't realize that. People don't just sell out on getting these corporate donors. They sell out on, stock options and what they're going to get hired after and their organizations and PACs and all that crap they start, right? So with this, though, it takes money to run. And when you're running for office, sometimes some of these offices like city council and stuff, a lot of rich people sit in those seats because it only pays $22,000 a year, $18,000 a year. And it's basically a full-time job. So who does it? It's like the wealthy people that own businesses or something like that go in and they sit on the city council because they can afford to do that full-time job for $18,000 a year. So when we're thinking about this, I think that for mutual aid, some of that will be like fundraising for staff for these candidates. So, and elections take advantage of volunteers. They take advantage of internships, with people not getting paid. Paying workers, I think, is important. But if we got a city council member that's only making $18,000 a year and they're already poor, or then we need to figure out a way to support that. If they're sitting on a school board and it's a full-time job, some of those school board positions only pay $11,000 or $12,000 a year. I don't think that people realize that. And that's why we have so many rich people in those seats, because they can afford to run. They can afford to quit their jobs and risk it and run and then have this as a status symbol in their sewing circles with their quilting ladies that they're going and playing, I don't know, going and having dinner parties with to talk about, having something on their record that they're doing in the community that they feel good about, instead of actually doing things to help people. So in part of this, when we're building this out, I feel like figuring out how we can actually pay people a living wage that are doing some of those positions will be helpful. So it's not always rich people taking those positions. The PMC class, as we talk about, we need people that are struggling and have struggled and knows what struggling is like taking some of these positions.
So my vision, especially with this systemic change part, the mutual aid political party and everything I've seen here so far is great. When I talk about how much we should engage in electoral politics, I always put that number around maybe like 15%. And I think the power that this idea has comes from our extreme emphasis on the mutual aid and community building part. We don't, and once again, we got to talk about safeguards to prevent people from being corrupted, right? But the fact that we even have to have that conversation is concerning. The reason why I like this idea, because I want us to be so focused on mutual aid. Like I want Tour for the Poor to be running everywhere, and that's what our vision is with RBN chapters. Just for example, and then everyone can have their own local thing that they focus on. And this is just the reality that I have to deal with, and we have to deal with as Marxists. That people, they want a systemic change option, right? So even though I don't invest that much into electoral politics, people are like, what do I vote for, right? So our emphasis on electoral politics is just that, just so we can get some people, someone to vote for. I don't think people should pay to vote. We need to focus on changing the electoral system. But if you're one of the people that got to wait in line for 2 hours, or if you got to give up PTO time, that's you paying to vote. How much investment do we really want to put in that? Now, if you can go out and vote and you got a lot, and like for me, I'm lucky. My library is literally 5 minutes away. I wake up pretty early. I can vote in like 5 minutes. But if you're in this situation where you want someone to vote, I want the mutual aid candidate to be there, that completely divorced from the Republican and Democratic Party. So, and then this person will be built up by the system in your building case. So if you are engaged in the community and you're doing the work like Rome is, you're doing work like a lot of people that we want to build in the RBN chapters are doing, then the people in your local area be like, yeah, that person right there. Let's get Rome. Let's get this person that's doing KC RBN over here, right? So I think that will build naturally so we don't have to like force it. So what I'm saying is not even necessarily a critique of the idea. I just want us to keep our eye on the bar. Like it should be mutual aid, political education strongly first. We can't give people the illusion that we're trying to sell a team. And then if we can get a candidate through the electoral system, and that happens naturally through someone being a strong leader in their community and they're being nominated, that's great. But I don't want our this idea to be diluted with the dreams of grandeur of taking over this system. But I don't even think that's really a critique. I think that's just my perspective. No. But Case, do you want to continue? We only have a few more minutes before our next panel. But and pretty much this goes to anyone that's going to be on the activist summit. The invitation is always extended, like even after the summit, where we can always dive into these issues more. But Case, do you have anything?
Let me actually chime in here, because for me, the reason this idea works is because meeting the material needs is the first step. That's the first step. Yes, and this is the reason why this is the part the professional managerial class doesn't get. Their needs are already being met. So they don't understand this has to be the first step to any sort of organizing. You want me to come out and do this? How can I do that when I have to go feed my daughter? How can I do that when I'm working 60 hours? You get what I'm saying? Yeah. The material needs have to be met first. We have to get out of the idea of everything we're doing in 4-year span is preparing for an election, when we live lives every day. That has to be first before any political sort of thing can even happen. People have to first, I'm not worried about my bills and my food. Okay, now let's talk about politics. Yeah. You get how that happens?
No, 100%. Matter of fact, like, I'll be honest with you, the systemic side of things is not even on my mind. I know the ultimate goal is there. That's why it's third is all the way at the end. Because literally, if we go out tomorrow and I say, hey, I got somebody I want to run, we got no infrastructure. There's nobody that even knows what mutual aid political party is. Nothing. Like, we need to really go hard on mutual aid to get people involved, get people on board. We got to help people so that they even know we exist, to then get to that part down the line. Because now, once you got a gathering of people, once you start building the people, now you have to do the political education, and that's going to be a heavy lift in itself, right? So the systemic change, which is changing the system through ballot initiatives and electoral politics, that's down the line. We got to really spend the next 2 years building up the people infrastructure.
Love it.
So this is what I'm gonna do, because we got some super chats, and I'm gonna read the super chats in the last 5 minutes while we transition to our
and I'll go over the schedule too, because we forgot to do that.
I'm about to put a schedule, CJ. Yeah, I was just about to put.
Okay, perfect.
Can I do a rapid?
Yeah,
go ahead. I think I got like 3 left. Okay.
Yeah, Case. Let's go ahead.
All right, so this is what we need. Phase 1 will be building awareness. We will need people to canvass the neighborhood, libraries, establishments, putting up flyers, handing out pamphlets. But before we can even put out flyers and hand out pamphlets, I need anybody who's in the audience or anybody who might watch this video later on. What we're looking for is copywriters, and unfortunately, we can't pay anybody. That's the whole point, I guess, of mutual aid, is that we kind of mutually help each other out. If you can donate your time to help word the pamphlets so that it can be engaging and it can capture the hearts of people to be involved, that's what I'm looking for copywriters to do, so that we could come up with the pamphlet. So that's really the next step is to come up with the documentation. And then also I put lawyers, because we will need a strong terms of service for the website, so that we're not held liable if something does go wrong. We got to make sure we cross all our T's. Of course, we want to make sure things don't go wrong, but even Uber ran into trouble at some point. So we got to make sure that the website is good in that area. And I think that's it. Let me
I put up okay, you have your email, because I didn't know if you had it. So email Case, or you can email us. We actually have our own email now, and our website is up too. So we'll be talking about that too. So but go ahead and email Case for this part that he's asking about, and go ahead.
So I'll